What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks.
I do have a media recommendation.
I love Lord of the Rings. Superheroes, movies, a little jack of all trades, I guess.
So what makes me a geek?
What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks, the weekly pop culture podcast from Central Michigan Life, where we discuss all things geek culture, which is like high culture, but better. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you follow the CM Life Instagram and Twitter pages for updates on the podcast, and to look for us wherever you find your podcasts, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our website at www.cm-life.com. My name is Brendan Valentine, and I'd like to thank you all for joining me and my fellow co-hosts this week, who will introduce themselves in a second with our question of the week. This week's question is, drumroll please, what is your favorite MCU end credit scene? So I will start with mine. My favorite was probably the end credit scene for Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where we got our first look at Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, because for most other MCU movies after Phase 1, after we got the Thanos one, I was kind of into predicting, what the end credit scene was. Iron Man 3 didn't really have like a major one, like it just had him talking to Banner. Let's see, Guardians of the Galaxy had like some, like the Dancing Groot one, but they were things that were like mildly predictable, like in the movie. The Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver one came out of nowhere to me, and like that surprise of like, oh, we're getting bigger, like here for the next Avengers movie, because Winter Soldier was the latest movie released, at least on Earth, as far as I can remember, before Avengers: Age of Ultron. So I was like, it got me hyped for that movie. I wasn't expecting it. It all blended together really well.
Okay, I'll go next. Hey everyone, my name is Hope Gooderl. I would say that my favorite end scenes is either going to be Baby Dancing Groot, because absolutely adorable. Like, I understand, predictability, but like, it's Baby Dancing Groot. Come on. And while technically not in the MCU, the end credit scene of The Incredible Hulk, with, I can't remember his name, who played Hulk
Ross.
before.
Oh, yeah. Edward Norton.
Thank you, Edward Norton, who played Hulk before Mark Ruffalo. Wow, I'm having trouble with names today, apparently. But I also liked that, like, even though we didn't get Edward Norton as Hulk in the MCU, the fact that like they still connected the fact that Hulk and like hinted towards it with Tony Stark meeting was
General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, so I hear you have like a problem or something like that. And it was like, all right, we're getting Hulk. We're good. So probably one of those. Honestly, there are so many though that like I'm kind of anticipating some to come up that I'll be really excited for later. So
all right, well, I'm Isaac Hunter. I also love the baby Groot dancing at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. That was I put that down. But I also love the Spider-Man Homecoming end credit scene all the way at the end, where it's Captain America talking about the importance of patience. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So many people in the theater when I saw it were like, oh my gosh. Like,
I went and saw it with a friend who had seen it like the day before. Like we had plans to see it, and then he got invited to see it like the day before, and he didn't tell me that he'd actually gone to see it. He was like, it was so good, I'd love to see it again while we're in the theater. And then so for the Vulture reveal, like he was already looking at me when that happened, and I looked over, I was like, holy crap. But then like the entire time the credits are playing, he's just like, oh, no, it's worth it. Just wait. And then like the Captain America one comes, and I was like, are you kidding me? And he's just sitting there dying laughing. He's like, no, I had to sit through it, so you had to sit through it too.
Oh, it's so, I don't know, it's so good. I think just Spider-Man Homecoming has good end credits because I also like the Far From Home ones with J. Jonah Jameson.
Mhm.
That was a surprise that J.K. Simmons would be reprising
Reprising.
reprising the character, not the same role, I suppose. And Nick Fury being a Skrull for that movie. So good stuff.
Speaking of Nick Fury, I guess this doesn't technically count as an end credit scene, but like the end credit scene that never was for Iron Man, where Nick Fury came in. I don't know if you heard this, but like around the time they were releasing Endgame, they released a bunch of like, concept art and like what if like footage, and that's actually the kind of what sparked the idea for the What If series. Is like, oh, there was so much stuff we like almost did, and like this is how like where it could have gone. Um, but Nick Fury, his line instead of like, I want you to join the Avengers Initiative was something along the lines of mutants, radioactive spiders, and then what was the other Marvel movie out at the time? It was
I think
Spider-Man.
something to do with, was it Fantastic Four or something? I don't know.
Oh yeah, something like and the world's first super family or something like that. It was three like Marvel movies that were not MCU, and like still are not MCU. That they were going to try and connect them in, but they didn't have the rights to do it. But they were like, if they had the rights, it would have been, it would have been connected universe type stuff. So, which I thought that would have been really cool. Would have completely changed the MCU. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because Iron Man came out in 2008, which if they're talking about Spider-Man already having been bit, like if that was true, that he was already bit, that would make Spider-Man a lot older, like 8 years older. At least because he came out in 2016 was Civil War.
Yeah, the Civil War happened in 2016, and Peter Parker had been bitten for a year before that. So he got bit in 2015 in the MCU.
I mean, they kind of fixed it, with the blip and everything. Hey, he didn't actually age 5 years.
Oh, there it is. Exactly.
Plus, Tom Holland confirmed or made it like a headcanon that the little boy with the Iron Man shield and like with the blaster during the first Iron Man.
Iron Man. That was Iron Man 2.
Second Iron Man. Yep, Iron Man 2. I'm tired today. I apologize. Was Peter Parker,
which is pretty cool.
I think Feige got on board with that too. I think it's all but confirmed. All that Tom Holland has to do is like make it a line in No Way Home, and it'll be confirmed. Alrighty, well, thank you very much for getting us started. I think that was a really good question. I think we could have made a whole episode about end credit scenes. Yes, but we have some more pressing MCU news tonight. But we're gonna quick get started. Or today, whatever time you're actually watching this. We got some quick geek news for you. So I will get started. I have to apologize first and foremost, everyone. I jinxed it. Last week I mentioned that May the 4th might have been a potential release date for Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. But alas, TT Games has officially said that they will not make their spring 2021 release date time, and hope to make a later window this year. While I'm disappointed, I'm still looking forward to this game and the fact that they're like still putting effort into it. I hope this doesn't end up being like a Cyberpunk situation where they delay it and they delay it and they delay it, and then it turns out no one was actually working on it the entire time. But I hope they're really putting effort into it, and it's just hard to meet deadlines because of COVID. Because it has the potential to be such a good game. It looks so good, and I'm very excited. Another reference to last week. I know I mentioned in passing that the Pokemon Go on April Fool's Day, or not Pokemon Go, but like the Pokemon Company, all of their social media seem to be overrun with Bidoof. And they have officially come out and apologized for all of this so-called Bidoofery that happened on their social media pages. So it's very good to see that they're taking accountability for their actions and acknowledging the situation that occurred.
Oh, very mature of them.
Yes. Alrighty. What have y'all got for us?
Okay. Yeah, I have some news. All right. one, I just found out from the Wall Street Journal is where I read it for your source. But yeah, Netflix has reached a multi-year agreement with Sony Pictures Entertainment for domestic streaming rights to the studio's theatrical movies. And so basically the deal is going to start with Sony Pictures 2022 movie slate. But it's going to basically give Netflix a first look option to pick up movies that Sony is specifically like marketing or licensing for streaming platforms. And this includes any future Spider-Man movies and other Sony films based on Marvel characters like Venom and Mobius. So Netflix is going to be able to stream those Sony movies, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, so which means the only so it's between Disney Plus and Netflix, which I feel like are the two most like common household streaming services now. Like Hulu's up there, HBO Max is like making its thing, and a lot of people have Prime. But like when you think streaming service, Netflix is the original, and Disney Plus is like the big newcomer, at least in my sphere of people.
Yeah.
Which would make almost the entire MCU now, because we're missing Incredible Hulk on Disney Plus and the Spider-Man movies, but everything else is on there. So we'd have everything except for Incredible Hulk, because that's Universal, not Sony. But
maybe there'll be like a bundle where you can get them cheaper if you get them together.
Exactly.
Superhero bundle. Get the two streaming services.
Yeah, I don't think Netflix and Disney Plus are coming to any agreement anytime soon.
But I thought that was pretty interesting.
I was gonna say, can we get Netflix and although I think it is HBO, but whatever the DC streaming service turned into, was it HBO?
HBO Max.
If they can, combine, maybe, I could afford HBO Max.
Speaking of HBO, if you'd ever feel like
sponsoring
us, we would love to put in our own little segment for HBO content.
We will do like streams of your content. We'll do a whole walkthrough. We'll do bonus episodes. Yeah. I also really want HBO Max, but just like the more stuff that comes out, I'm like, crap, this is very competitive and looks very good. So
yeah. And so my second bit of news, of arguably more important than the Netflix and Sony agreement, is that Marvel Studios has released an hour-long clip of Baron Zemo dancing in the nightclub from Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it is very, if you can, for the listeners at home that can't see us, just picture almost like Spider-Man from Spider-Man 3 dancing, but less cringy at the same time because he's doing it in a nightclub and not on the street. So that's exciting.
All right. For those of you listening at home, for the rest of this episode, one of us will be Zemo dancing. For those of you watching on YouTube, we'll try our best. But those of you listening, just imagine it's one of us.
All right. Well, Hope, take it away.
All right. So horror film fans, you're in luck because the next Jordan Peele movie is coming out. Stephen Yeun is in negotiations to join Keke Palmer in the next film. So I kind of want to see it because Keke Palmer, I really like her acting. So like, maybe I'll actually go see a horror movie. We'll see. If you were fans of the animated cartoon series in the 80s called Thundercats, Adam Wingard, who did Godzilla versus Kong.
Hey, it's a Gonzala versus a Kong, Sorry, that was Gonzala. Gargonzola, that's what it is. That's cheese. Yeah. Sorry.
Maybe I was thinking basketball with Gonzaga too. Yeah. Which, side note, that almost half-court shot that he did, the one kid did, he was a freshman. So, like, if you haven't seen the Gonzaga against UCLA in the Final Four game, oh my gosh, you need to go watch that. Yes, I will geek over sports right now.
I will also geek over sports. I watched that game, and that was a good game, and I wanted UCLA to take it. But if that was how it's going to end, I'm not going to complain.
And he was a freshman. And I was like, oh my gosh. When my dad told me he was a freshman, I was like, okay.
Yeah, what have I done as a freshman? Nothing.
Right? I was in community college as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, so Adam Wingard, who did Godzilla versus Kong, will direct an animated film based on the 80s cartoon series Thundercats. For fans of Bridgerton, I have good news and bad news. And I'm going to start with the bad news first so that you can be happy with the good news later. I apologize in advance if I screw up his name, but Regé Jean-Paul will not be returning as the Duke of Hastings in season 2. There was an Instagram post from Lady Whistletown on Bridgerton Netflix Instagram that said, "Dearest readers, while all eyes turn to Lord Anthony Bridgerton's quest to find a Viscountess, we bid adieu to Regé Jean-Paul, who so triumphantly played the Duke of Hastings. We'll miss Simon's presence on screen, but he will always be a part of the Bridgerton family. Daphne will remain a devoted wife and sister, helping her brother navigate the upcoming social season and what it has to offer. More intrigue and romance than my readers may be able to bear. Yours truly, Lady Whistledown." So to try and ease the pain here, the Duke of Hastings was always going to be a short role just for season 1, because it was essentially a 1-season arc for his character, and the series is trying to stay true to the books in what characters they follow and the arcs that they have. So each season is supposed to follow each of the siblings' love story. So on to the good news for Bridgerton fans. There are 4 new actors cast for roles for season 2. So we've got Charitha Chandran and Shelley Khan cast as Edwina and Mary Sharma, the sister and mother of the new lead Kate Sharma. And then we've got Callum Lynch as Theo Sharp, and Rupert Young will play Jack. So you've got new people to look forward to, even if your favorite is leaving. I am very sad at this next bit of news because I loved the show, even if I'm behind on episodes. But CBS has decided to end the show MacGyver with this season 5 finale, which is coming up on April 30th at its usual time of 8 p.m.
MacGyver ran for 5 seasons in this reboot?
Yeah.
Interesting. Heck, when you said CBS, though, I real quick thought you were going to say they're canceling Survivor. And I was like, they better not be canceling Survivor.
No, I think you still got Survivor for a bit longer.
50 seasons, baby.
And a movie.
Yeah.
And a movie.
I will be honest and say that the tone of the show changed when George Eads left the show, especially when they brought in a woman, which I love her, but then they were like, oh, let's have a romantic relationship between essentially the bodyguard and the main character, and it was like, I think that's where they went off the rails a little bit. But I love all the characters, and I'm gonna be really sad the show is gone, because I absolutely love the show. For fans of Into the Spider-Verse 2 reportedly has Christopher Daniel Barnes in final talks to appear as the 90s animated Spider-Man.
Oh, how cool is that?
No way. That's cool.
So, we get more Spider-Man and we get throwbacks, and yeah, that's going to be exciting. And that means I also have to watch Into the Spider-Verse. I know, it's been a while. I'm behind.
You haven't seen it?
I'm really bad. I know references.
So good.
I keep finding other stuff.
Probably my favorite Spider-Man film.
That's fair. I
it's
gotta watch.
Exceptional.
I absolutely love Miles Morales and everything, but honestly,
Do you?
I would probably be watching it for Spider-Ham with John Mulaney, just because I love John Mulaney. So,
like I said in our first episode of the podcast, if in No Way Home we don't, and if it is an Into the Spider-Verse multiverse type story, if we don't get at least a reference to John Mulaney's Spider-Ham, I am going to be upset.
We'll storm into Kevin Feige's office with our masks and be like, "Listen, we need this to happen."
If we still have to wear masks by the time that this film would come out, I'm gonna be kind of ticked.
The only mask I'll be wearing is Spider-Man's mask.
Spider-Ham's mask. You gotta wear a Spider-Ham mask if we're gonna go into Kevin Feige about it.
Okay, official tangent. Does Spider-Man's mask protect against COVID, or is it like a neck gaiter?
Oof.
It probably does, because I feel like he fights a lot of villains with like gases and stuff. But
he still gets taken out by gases, doesn't he?
Yeah,
I think it depends on the suit.
I think he adapts it. I don't know. Yeah, that's true. Depending on the suit.
I'm gonna go ahead and say no, because I'm pretty sure he still needs to breathe.
I think if he had the Iron Spider suit, because he could breathe in space.
Yeah,
he had that mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay,
but I think any of the other ones, maybe not. Maybe one from Far From Home, because he like mixed together a bunch of suits too. But definitely the Iron Spider mask.
I want to see John Mulaney in No Way Home as like a TV show cook, and he's like, well, that's how you cook a ham. And he's like cooking. And that's like the only clip we see of it.
If John Mulaney's in No Way Home, I'll be happy. That'll be really funny.
Honestly, though. So ending that tangent. The Tomorrow War, it was a movie that stars Chris Pratt. Wow, I'm having trouble tonight pronouncing things. As the leading role, with Chris McKay as the director, who was the director for the Lego Batman movie. The Tomorrow War was originally set to be distributed in theaters from Paramount Pictures, but it will now be streamed on Amazon Prime Video on July 2nd, 2021. And it'll be like exclusively on Prime Video. And the movie is described as a global sci-fi actioner. So I think Chris Pratt has been hyping it up a lot on his social media accounts lately. So if he's excited for it, and he loves, when he does his acting, when he's really excited for a project, he gets into hyping it up. So if he's hyping it up, then it has to be somewhat good, right?
Yeah.
Going back to CBS News, NCIS Hawaii, which is technically still rumored to be happening as a spinoff of regular NCIS. But if they're coming out with like stuff about like new characters, then I feel like it's becoming less of a rumor. But a first in NCIS history is that the primary leadership role will be filled by a woman. So the equivalent of Mark Harmon's Leroy Jethro Gibbs, or Chris O'Donnell's G. Callan, or LL Cool J's Sam Hanna from NCIS LA, and then Scott Bakula as Agent Pride on New Orleans. There is a woman who will be serving as the 1st Division Chief of NCIS Pearl, and she is tentatively named Jane Tennant. So I'm super excited for this. And I really want to know if this does happen, if it's going to cross over with Magnum PI. Because like technically, Magnum PI is in the NCIS universe, and I have a whole link that I will not go into right now.
Aren't they also connected to Hawaii Five-0?
Yes. Which, okay, so
they can have luau's.
Dude, they've done that on Hawaii Five-0 and Magnum PI. So, Empire of Light is going to be a 1980s romance starring Olivia Colman, and will be directed by Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins, who did 1917, the war film. So that's going to be really interesting. And I'm very curious about that one. There's going to be a movie called House Party starring Jorge Lindenberg Jr. and Tosin Cole. And they're set to star in the reboot of the classic 1990 comedy. And for fans of Friends, David Schwimmer revealed that the cast of the original Friends TV show is filming the reunion very soon, and like had in all caps very soon. While he did not specifically say, it's very soon. what they can do with COVID restrictions. So, and my final bit of news is that Sebastian Stan has officially been playing James Buchanan Barnes for a total of 10 years since he first appeared in Captain America: The First Avenger. So I'm really
I'm
happy.
old.
Right? So yeah, that is all of my news that I've got for y'all this week.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Alrighty. So I know with my news, it was kind of a throwback to last week. And another throwback to last week for our main topic. Last week, we talked about the state of the DCEU. And then this week, we got some updates on the soon-to-be released Marvel projects, the summer ones that we're going to get. Loki and Black Widow. Black Widow, we've had a couple trailers for already, and Loki, we already had one. But they were able to give us more footage of both, and I found them both to be very exciting. I figure we can start with Black Widow, and then move on to the trailer for Loki. So starting with Black Widow, obviously this is not like, we technically already got the release trailer back last March. And then they've done their best to not spoil too much footage, so the whole movie just isn't in trailers. But I don't know. I thought I was surprised by the amount of brand new footage that we got in this trailer, given all of the new all of the stuff we've gotten in the past. I thought we'd kind of reached the limit of what we were getting. But overall, for either of you, did this trailer change anything? Did it add something? Was there anything in it that you're like, oh, I didn't know that was happening, that you got really excited for?
Yes. I as well, first of all, was really surprised. I was like, when I watched the movie, how much isn't gonna what's gonna turn out? I didn't see, but no, I really liked in the trailer. You see a clip of a young David Harbour with two younger kids. I'm assuming to be a young Natasha Romanoff and her adopted sister, figure. And I don't know. I guess I never pictured her as being that young and knowing these people. So I think it's gonna be pretty. I thought it was more young adult. They formed a family type bond, but it looks almost he's straight up their father figure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty interesting.
I will say I was kind of disappointed in one aspect, as especially with the beginning part when they're doing all the flashbacks. When she says, I've made a lot of mistakes, I was like, you had the perfect opportunity to reference the Avengers by saying, I have read in my ledger. Come on, why didn't you've connected it to so many other things, to various parts, Easter eggs. Come on, why did you do that?
That's probably a big part of the film. I've seen a lot of people try to make that connection, and I'm I think it's too obvious for them to not be intentionally leaving it out.
Yeah, Loki's whole spiel that he talks to her.
Mm-hmm.
Dracovich's daughter, I think, is what he says.
Yeah.
I don't
know. But other than that, I am actually really excited to see her sister figure. Especially because we've only known Black Widow and Natasha Romanoff as a single person who was in the Black Widow program and therefore, is by herself. She doesn't have anyone else. And I mean, we get teased when her and Bruce Banner start maybe possibly having a relationship that doesn't really go anywhere. But I mean, you don't see it with anyone else. And so I'm really excited to see her sister, because her or sister figure, however we want to say that.
Yelena.
Yeah, because to know that she had this big relationship that she kept hidden or felt that she couldn't go back to until this moment. And then it's oh, but her sister looks almost as badass as her. And if not a little bit more.
Okay.
But I'm curious, because there was a lot of fan theories thrown around during Civil War when she is talking to Winter Soldier Bucky. Come on, you can at least recognize me. And so I'm like, are they gonna like reference that at all in this
Ooh,
movie, or is it
yeah.
gonna be kept out? Especially because we do see the Black Widow program a little bit. So
I thought that reference in Civil War was to the fact that she saw him in Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Well, she gets shot sometime in her history by
By the
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
no more bikini season or something. She says,
Yeah.
which it's just like a scar on her tummy, but still, yeah.
Wait,
But
I
then-
thought that was from that fight in that movie. That scar. No.
no, that was her
I don't think so.
shoulder during Winter Soldier was in her shoulder.
She gets injured a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Dangerous line of work.
Yeah.
But also with the Black Widow
Ballet.
program essentially being Hydra or Hydra adjacent, a sister program to Hydra type thing, that like it's possible that they would have trained together too, or like trained to be like, hey, this is our worst assassin. You need to, something. That
That's
I'm like,
fair, especially with what they're doing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be completely out of the realm of possibility.
so I'm like, do we get that? Or is Marvel going to say, no, that's not actually a thing? So I'm really curious to see how that will go. So, but other than that, I'm super excited.
My major thing, just like you, Hope, was my major thing that I pulled from the trailer that excited me the most was like the new scenes with Yelena. Because this was the first time that I ever this footage made me actually consider some fan theories that I've heard that Yelena's actually working with Taskmaster and she wants control of the Red Room, or like not working with Taskmaster, but like she's not stopping him because she wants to destroy the Red Room, but she wants to take control of the Black Widow program. Is theories I've heard. I've also heard that they might be setting her up to become the new Black Widow, or a new, maybe not taking that title, but like if we no longer have Natasha, is she willing, like after Natasha has died, is she willing to kind of like maybe pick up the mantle the way like a Sam or a Bucky would for Captain America? So I've heard that, and seeing this trailer, I don't think that that's going to be the case. However, anything's possible. And I'm always excited to see the Taskmaster scenes, especially like to pull out his movements. It's like, all right, that's from Hawkeye, that's from Cap, that's from Iron Man, like that
That's
kind
from
of
Black
stuff.
Panther. Yeah.
That's from Black Panther. Like, and I was like, okay, that's really cool. And the Taskmaster costume looks faithful to the comics. The movement and everything. Like, if I really like the idea of Taskmaster like that, being able to like see something and copy it, because I feel like that's one of the more realistic powers, if that makes sense, because there are people that like can do that almost. So I'm always excited to see Taskmaster stuff. So, but
I just remembered there's a possible another reference to like the Black Widow program during the Agent Carter series, with Dottie, and then when they go to Germany, I don't remember, but join the 107th to infiltrate like a base of some sort, and they find like the beds with the handcuffs and stuff to chain the girls to the beds. Like, I'm like, okay, so are we gonna also get like that history and like go way back, or are we just gonna stick with the Natasha Romanoff history of it?
See, that's a shame that Agent Carter wasn't like made during the Disney Plus era, because I feel like that show had a lot of potential, and then it kind of got thrown under the bus.
Definitely.
Because, like, first of all, Haley Atwell is a great actress, and I love her as Peggy Carter. And seeing like her coming into her own in that was really, really cool, and I liked the concept of the series. I'd love to see a reboot or a rerun of it.
Another interesting thing about the trailer for Black Widow, the new trailer, I realize, is the clip it has, because it has a clip from Avengers Endgame from her and Hawkeye in Vormir. And like, it kind of makes you think, like, because this, like, that happens after this movie takes place. So why is that in the trailer? Like, is it just to tell us as the audience, like, just to remind us? Or is it like deep down the whole TV show is actually like being told from a point of view, like right after she died? Like maybe she's in that orange realm that happens when you
The Soul Stone
thing, and she's just like has to like reflect on her whole life, before she can
either move on or be pulled back by Steve. depending on how that works.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they added like parts from a movie that canonically take place after this TV series or movie. It's a movie.
It is a movie, yeah.
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 I think personally, like my idea for it is that it's just to like show what happens, like, hey, I redeemed myself, or I feel like I redeemed myself. But like that it's more to just because it is supposed to be the end of phase 3. Like they were supposed to have that for like the end of phase 3, technically.
Black Widow was supposed to be the first phase 4 project. It was slated as the first phase 4 project. Far From Home was the end of
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It ended up being WandaVision.
But I think like it's not necessarily supposed to be just like origin story, but like explaining, going more in depth into the character and showing us, you know, more sides to her than what we knew. Which I feel like is what technically Disney and Marvel are like doing with a lot of characters, like within WandaVision and like what they're doing with Falcon and Winter Soldier and everything. So yeah.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for like phase 4 in general, but I've been anticipating Black Widow ever since it was announced. Like I never thought we were actually going to get a, like, especially after Endgame. I was like, I didn't think we were getting a Black Widow movie. But I'm really, really excited, not just because like, oh yay, like, you know, Scarlett Johansson gets like her own movie in the MCU, but like it looks like something that's different and new that we straight up haven't seen. And the movie looks so like insanely action packed and just I don't know how to put this into words, but like I haven't been this. I was obviously very excited for Endgame, but like I haven't been this excited for a non-Avengers movie like ever. It could be just because I've had to wait so long, but like with, you know, the way Natasha's story ended, and I feel like there's a weird like time gap like between Civil War and Infinity War. We really don't have any idea what's going on with the Avengers. And I feel like this since this takes place during that time period, it'll give us like that good, you know, filling in of the gap and information from before.
Yeah, like how we see clips of like General Thunderbolt Ross, like
why the heck is Ross
younger,
in this movie?
like blonde younger, like from the 80s, and so like we're obviously going to get a lot of history and flashbacks probably for him, which will also help open up new things because like Red Hulk, canonically I think Abomination is in the MCU like canonically still like in a bunker somewhere.
He was I'm pretty sure he's on the raft actually. The prison that they kept most of the Avengers in at the end of Civil War. And so like I wonder like how far they're going to go back to be able to open up new avenues. And I think that's pretty exciting, especially since like when it was Infinity War where she's like, I went and like looked for my family and like all I found was like gravestones or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Black Widow says that in a movie. And so like I'm kind of going into this whole like Black Widow movie the same way I went into Rogue One, where I was like, I don't know how many people are going to make it out of this. So
that's the thing. Like it has. We already know where it ends, and we already kind of know where it starts. With already having two movies like right in front and right behind, with that character being in both movies. So it's like, what the heck happens here? Because it looks like we're introducing this whole new realm of stuff that has potential for sequels. But it's condensed into like this, you know, it's kind of already boxed in. So, it'll be interesting.
You brought up something that all of a sudden I was like, oh, since this is technically between Civil War and Infinity War, the Sokovia Accords are technically in effect. And she signed them, which makes me very curious if she ends up like on... Because doesn't she end up on like Cap's side during Infinity War?
She ran away with Cap because but like she was with Cap and Sam while like I think they didn't give a time frame, but like she was with them for a little while.
So like I wonder if like so if she does this and then essentially like violates the Accords and then she's like, you know what, screw it, I'm on this side anyways. Like I only signed it because of all the red in my ledger, you know, to try and be on the right side of the law this time around. And then she realizes like what it actually does, and then she joins up with Cap and everything after like this movie. Like I wonder if that's how like the timeline and like events go, or if like the Sokovia Accords are just like thrown out the window at this point, you know.
They've been keeping the Accords strong. Like they're mentioned in both WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier. And like they're still a thing, which I think is BS. After Endgame, you're really going to keep the Sokovia Accords?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, now you know you can't enforce them with how many people showed up to that final battle. Like, you could maybe enforce it at Civil War, where you're like, okay, our biggest issue is Vision. And now it's like, we cannot control Wanda. Who's the heck is Doctor Strange? That
guy fixed my liver like last year, and now he's shooting lasers? What the heck?
Yeah, Doctor Strange, who cares about Loki appearing to find the father that he put in a nursing home and having him fall for 30 minutes, but doesn't care when Wanda takes over an entire city.
He was in the Dark Dimension playing chess with Dormammu. Yeah. Canon.
But tangent really quick. So I found this on TikTok, and so when Shuri called Bucky the White Wolf at the end of Black Panther, in the comics, White Wolf is Black Panther's adopted brother, which means that Queen Mother Ramonda 100% adopted that broken white boy, James Buchanan Barnes, meaning Bucky has diplomatic immunity as a member of the Wakandan royal family. So that makes me wonder, with his pardon, is it because he technically now has immunity? But I don't know if y'all want to go on that tangent at all, or
it's interesting.
Also, I'm pretty sure I didn't think it was Shuri that called him the White Wolf. I thought that was T'Challa when he brought him the arm.
I think it was like little kids running around, actually. But I
can vividly remember Chadwick Boseman like in the accent. It is time the White Wolf like re-entered the fight or something like that.
I think the little kids were running, calling him White Wolf, and then T'Challa called him that.
Or he says like our guest or something. I don't know.
Oh well.
Shuri says we have another broken white boy to fix.
Yeah, that is Shuri. So, last question, just like to throw this out there, kind of in reference to our opening question. Anyway, any anticipation or expectations for what the end credit scene of Black Widow is going to be?
Something with Thunderbolt Ross, but not from the past, like now. Modern day Ross, like where like they did stuff. It's only going to show him in the past, but then it's going to be like, oh, he still has this thing. Maybe he stole from the Red Room or something. I don't know.
I almost want like her sister to meet up with like one of the current Avengers and like maybe hint towards more Young Avengers stuff of like her possibly joining, not as the Black Widow, but as like her own, like a new hero.
I don't think Yelena would count as a Young Avenger because I'm pretty sure she's the same age as Natasha.
She looks.
Even though Florence Pugh herself is in her 20s.
Is very young.
Yeah.
But I don't think Yelena is that young. It's not like Nat was old either. I don't even think she was. I think she was like 40, but that's because they time jumped to like 2023. Like she's the youngest of the Avengers, I think. Like she's not old. I think she's like 27 in Iron Man 2 or something like that. Like compared to the rest of the Avengers who are in their 50s in Endgame.
And Thor's 1500.
Oh yeah, Thor is like.
And Steve being 106 at that point, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Bucky's 109. So my anticipation, I agree. I think there's going to be something with Ross. My big theory is he's starting something like to fall under the Sokovia Accords, like not necessarily a Suicide Squad, but like.
But What are the Thunderbolts? Is that the name of the squad he had in the comics?
I don't think that's him. I know what you're talking about though. But like this, it's like a weird, it's not like anti-hero, but kind of like anti-villain, where you are a villain, but you're also fighting against other villains, type thing. Or maybe like a Red Hulk, something, the Red Room with gamma radiation is Red Hulk. But I think that'll be like a mid-credit scene, and then an end credit scene. I think we will go back to Vormir and either see not necessarily Cap returning the stone, but like something as like a either this is the end of Black Widow's arc. We see like her body down there, either like a talking in the Soul Stone, some comment being made, maybe like because we see like Clint get the Soul Stone and then him like all of a sudden he's not on the mountain anymore. Maybe Clint maybe Clint goes back to find her body before traveling back in time or traveling back to the future. Something like that. I think something will take place on Vormir. The reason for that being, switching over to the next trailer, the Loki trailer. The first one had a place that kind of looked like Vormir. I'm not going to ask major questions about this yet because I want to talk about this first. Second trailer also had a major place that looked like Vormir, and this time we saw Loki talking to someone that looked like Nat. So maybe there's a reason Loki is coming out around the same time as Black Widow. To pull this together, like that wasn't their original plan. They're like, you gotta wait till Loki and then see what happened to Nat. But now it's like, all right, release them at the same time. Even though now Black Widow will come out after Loki, so
because Loki's being held by like the TVA.
The TVA, which it looks like from the trailer is headed by the Living Tribunal.
Or, well, it's like that, or there's also people called the Timekeepers who are like a bunch of old dudes in robes similar to the giant statues. I don't know yet. I'm excited.
But, like, because there was the scene where he steals and, like, jumps out of the airplane, and that was back in the 60s.
Yeah, D.B. Cooper.
Yeah. And so, like, I almost wonder if it isn't like a pre-Endgame Natasha, possibly. Like maybe after the Avengers and after her whole spiel of trying to figure out who, Loki's trying to control. But before she dies on Vormir, like maybe like trying to tell her like, hey, yes, you did bad things. I did bad things too. But also, you turned good. I'm kind of sort of good. I'm still Loki. So like, chaotic, good-ish. So
the thing that this trailer really revealed, the last one kind of just hinted around, is like, this is an offshoot. This is not the Loki from our main universe. Like, and he wouldn't have necessarily become that Loki. Like, this is the Loki that got the Tesseract and teleported away, and the TVA took him.
Never did get help again with Thor.
No, like everything after Avengers, so Thor: The Dark World, him ruling Asgard for like
his mom's still alive.
3 years. Yeah, the stuff from Ragnarok, and his death in Infinity War. None of that happened. So what they specifically talk about like this Loki variant. So I'm thinking. So, and you see like how in the trailer there's this new scene where you can kind of see like a timeline graph and like offshoots from it. And Loki's going to be exploring those. I don't know why they're picking Loki, but like in the trailer, like, there's something special about him. But I think we're going to meet these other variants. So like similar to how, the Marvel What If is like, here's what's going on. It seems like they're going in the direction where Loki is going to have to fix these variants, which opens up the idea of these like what if type characters that are at the endpoints of these things that he has to kind of pull back. So this could be a variant Natasha that either didn't die on Vormir or got resurrected. So I'm thinking that's where this could come in. I also don't know if Black Widow's actually gonna, Scarlett Johansson will make an appearance, because I don't know if that's like in the cards for her, in the contract for her, but I would love to see that. But if this is the case, do either of you have like a character you'd love to see a variant of, and what that variant would be in the Loki series?
So I am pretty darn sure that, like how there's like the scene with like President Loki. He's like, I think that's an alternate Loki variant. Like that's not like the hero protagonist Loki. It's like another Loki that kind of like in like a post-apocalyptic New York took charge of America. And so I would love to see almost like not post-apocalyptic, but like something similar versions of like heroes that we know, the ones that wouldn't have died in New York if it did, like the nuke went off and killed like all the Avengers, for instance. Kind of like there's an episode of Teen Titans where like Starfire goes to the future and she sees like,
as if she hadn't been there. Yeah,
and it's all the different versions of everyone. I kind of want to see something like that, even if it's like ever so brief, where it's like freak like boy climbs on walls like in circus, and it's like Spider-Man, but it's like, I don't know, something like that.
I'd love to see that. That's a really cool idea, and like you have evidence for it with the President Loki scene. So I could see that.
To go back to one of your questions earlier, Brendan, about why they chose Loki, in Norse mythology, he is the god of mischief. And so like, I feel like him being able to, and plus within the Avengers, he's able to essentially like project himself in various places, even if, he can't like
physically be there.
Yeah. So the idea of him being the god of mischief and everything, I think that's why, like, because he can see all these different things, or like knows how to alter something slightly.
The variants are causing like little issues. So like being in the mind of Loki, he's like, I could see how I would do this. And it's like, all right, now backtrack that. We need to get rid of it. Okay, I can see that. That makes sense.
But as far as like any future variants type thing, I think I had something and then my brain went poof. I think it would be interesting, maybe not necessarily like with nuking everyone, with like the nuke, with the nuke, nuke going off in New York, because I feel like that would also destroy Spider-Man in a way.
Yeah, I just thought of that actually too. I was like, he lives in what, Queens?
He was on Brooklyn? A vacation that day. He hadn't moved to Queens yet.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
He was with Uncle Ben.
Oh. But
at
maybe
circus.
Maybe doing like with what they did in The Flash, when they went to one of the alternate worlds, where everybody was like the opposite.
Earth 2.
So, Earth 2. Especially if like this Earth is supposed to be like Earth 766 or something like that.
616. That's not the MCU Earth though. The Earth 616 is the main continuity in the comics. The MCU Earth is like 1099 or something like that.
Yeah, but they think it's 616 in the.
Because it was mentioned.
That was a funny
Thor.
reference. I like that.
It was in Thor, and then it was said again later. Anyways, sorry, brain function is not happening while I'm trying to think of words. But I think it would be interesting to see like with Loki as the president, or in control of whatever, doing his little mischief things, of like seeing variants of like, oh hey, yeah, like Peter Parker, instead of turning into the hero, he turns into the anti-hero or villain, or like with Cap and Bucky, like Cap isn't able to save Bucky and Hydra is the same, or because Hydra was originally what had the Tesseract. So it would be interesting to see if like Loki teams up with Hydra at any point.
Also, like I think Hulk could survive a nuclear blast, which would be really interesting if like
So could Thor.
If President Loki like used Hulk, who has now gone like pretty much like permanent Hulk form and like crazy, to like ensure his rule or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like in his court, like he just Hulk is chained up in the corner, like type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
See, because like my thought process, because I'd love to see more of these like variants of other characters, but I don't know in the TV show, like if we didn't get Doctor Strange in WandaVision, we're not getting like Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Loki, like that type stuff. Or heck, even like Chris Hemsworth's Thor. However, this would be a great opportunity to introduce maybe Beta Ray Bill, who's a like Thor adjacent character, stuff like that.
Let's get Sif back.
Lady Sif back, please. She's not dead.
She's coming back in Love and Thunder, isn't she?
Yeah,
yes,
I think so.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So what I would love to see in Loki, if like we get a Beta Ray Bill or like something like that, where we don't have to see every character from like either the Thor franchise or like any other major Marvel movie, is if Loki had succeeded in Thor 1, not necessarily like not necessarily like because he killed the frost giants, like that type of stuff, but like if Loki had made it clear from the beginning to Odin that I want to be king, Thor doesn't deserve to be king, and like if Loki was the one that actually ended up ruling Asgard and was never had all these issues from Odin not accepting him, like if this timeline, this Loki variant gets to see, oh, so this is the other timeline where I get everything I wanted, like a self-realization episode of like, but that isn't the Loki that should be, like type thing. Like I'm good as me Loki. I don't need to be this perfect universe Loki. I think that'd be a really interesting episode that's doable and understandable. We kind of get to go back to Asgard a bit, see that kind of stuff, which I think is reasonable. So
no, that also brings up a really good point about like exploring Loki's background history. Since like half of the stuff we get about his backstory is from Thor, and it's usually like one time he turned into a snake. And I love snakes, so I picked him up. And then he turned back and stabbed me. Yeah, but like an alternate timeline where he was never taken in by Odin, and he's Lord of the Frost Giants, and he's like his blue form. Which Frost Giants are huge. I never got why Loki like didn't ever use the ability to turn into his true form. But
so I think that's just his magic thing. That's just his form. I also think being raised among Asgardians probably did something to him. With humans, we have epigenetics, that it's things on top of your genome and how your genes express themselves. Like he probably is just like, this is how I should be. So does make some changes that way.
I was thinking at one point that they could bring in Matt Damon's Thor. But then also, does that Matt Damon's Thor actually exist?
Matt Damon's Loki. He was Loki.
Oh, Loki.
He was Loki.
Yeah, but Chris Hemsworth, real other brother. That's not right. Liam Hemsworth. The third Hemsworth brother was the one that played Thor.
The oldest Hemsworth brother.
And now for Thor: Love and Thunder, Melissa McCarthy is coming in to play that version of Hela. And I'm so excited for that.
So good.
I love that they're bringing this trope back. I love Taika Waititi in charge of the Thor franchise. I think that's great. All right, so other stuff with Loki, just more like general concept instead of like the specific stuff. Like we get to see a little more of the TVA, like I mentioned. To me, it looks like the Living Tribunal because they're coming in threes. You see these big statues. What do you think by the end of the season we're going to see with the the TVA? Like, is Loki going to be like a permanent staple here? Will he go it on his own? Is this a show that seems like it's going to have season 2 potential, or is this a standalone? Where does Loki leave us in the MCU?
That's what because I really don't want Loki to like die at the end, That's like something a TV show would do is like, well, Loki, like you've spent all of your life helping the TVA, like by the end, he's like, your time is done.
Okay, but being a TV show and also being Disney/Marvel, they could say, hey, he's dead, but not dead.
Yeah. Also, with time travel, it's like, literally the show could be like infinite, as long as Tom Hiddleston wanted to do it. But with the TVA, have you guys ever seen Umbrella Academy?
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
There's like I forgot what they're called. Do you remember what they're called?
No.
There's like the group of people that also basically wear suits and they watch over time and they they live outside of the timeline and they send people to do stuff.
Like the Time Bureau from Legends of Tomorrow.
Probably. Which I guess everything just has a time group. But like, I don't know, what if Loki like ends up ruling this place, like becoming leader of the TVA, or totally just decimates them and destroys them?
I'd love to see, like, so let's say at the end of season 1, like Loki's like, all right, the TVA's been manipulating me. I have no idea, because the thing about the trailer is it is very ambiguous to what the TVA actually is. Mm-hmm. Like, it presents it as this like office and all this stuff, and it's like, it just seems like kind of fun, but from the trailer it seems like there's probably they haven't given us the deep thing that's going on. Like, I can't tell what the main conflict of the season will be beyond fixing these time things, like the time variance. But like, where are we going? Why is he fixing the time variance? What does this bring into the MCU? No idea.
Kang the Conqueror.
But we're getting that in Quantumania, so it's like
we're gonna get a drop, I think, of him in this somewhere. You can't have time travel and not have Kang. That's a really good point. But what I think is, like, the TVA is the big focus of the trailer. So I'm thinking they might end up being the villains. Because the thing is, with every other thing, Black Widow, we know who the villain is. It's Taskmaster. You know, with WandaVision, we didn't know who the villain was for a while. That was Mephisto, or the idea of him.
it was Agatha all along.
Yeah.
But we, like, in the trailers for WandaVision, we didn't even get anything about Hayward. We didn't get anything about Agatha. We got Agnes, and some people suggested that. But heck, even in Falcon the Winter Soldier, we heard really nothing. We didn't hear the word Flag Smashers. We still don't even really know who the real villain is. I think it's the Power Broker. Spoiler warning. Who the Power Broker was not mentioned in the trailers at all. So I'm thinking that's the same thing for Loki, because it's another TV show. We haven't heard they've been dancing around it, and we just haven't noticed, and we don't know who the real villain is. I think it's whoever's in charge of the TVA. I think they're going to be manipulating Loki. I think it's the Living Tribunal, who isn't inherently a villain but could be, and stuff like that from Marvel Comics. So that's what this trailer hypes it up more, but also, like, just like the other Marvel TV shows, leaves it so ambiguous as to what's actually going on and why we should watch.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want like how Pierce and who's in charge of Sword?
Hayward.
Are like the head of, Shield or Sword, but they're they're too power hungry and are essentially the villain, or become a villain. That, like, it's one specific person in the TVA. Because I think that would show.
Owen Wilson's the villain.
Wow.
I just want a scene where they're going, like, through, like, time portals, like the little doors that keep popping up, and, like, they're fighting through the doors, and, like, in Doctor Strange style, where they're just falling through portals, and just, like, everyone he goes through, like, the people that are, like, in that time era look, and it's wow. Wow.
You ever see the movie Cars? It's one of my favorites.
Ka-chow!
Ka-chow!
Oh my gosh. If he says ka-chow, I'm gonna die.
He's like, your brother, he brought in this lightning bolt and was like, ka-chow! I mean, it's Disney. It was Pixar, but
okay.
Disney.
If Owen Wilson calls Thor the god of lightning, I'm gonna count that as a Cars reference.
What about, like, a reference to Night at the Museum, too, where he's the
he's the little cowboy?
Yeah.
Heck, any of his movies.
Feels so small.
Just have, like, a Roman emperor come in, and talk to him because that was his best friend. Yeah. I think, honestly, it's going to be really interesting. Like, either way, because they're bringing in and, like, referencing so many different things throughout history, or creating things, like talking about the show What If, like, they're kind of doing that with Loki too, of like, hey, what if the god of mischief decided that he didn't care, or just wanted to do whatever, and someone's in charge of him, but are they really? Because he's the god of mischief. So
So that kind of like that actually kind of leads into like my question is like for the other like for WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you've been able to give like a one sentence summary of what the show seems to be about from the trailers. It's like, oh, the WandaVision, it's Wanda and Vision like living in this world of sitcoms, but like that's missing like the whole second half of what the show is. Like the whole subplot of the Hex and everything was just left out of the trailers. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's like, oh, it's Sam and Bucky figuring out how to live in a world after Cap is gone, but they didn't really cover like the everything about Wyatt Russell's U.S. agent. They didn't cover anything about the power broker. They mentioned Zemo a little bit, but it seemed like he'd be a villain, not necessarily working with them. Like so far, the show's not over, but like that kind of stuff. I'm so happy that like they're a trio. I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
I loved the when they were both just like, if I may, no, shut up.
I love that. And so you can give a one sentence summary that kind of like messes with it. So I feel like the one sentence summary for Loki based on the trailer is Loki traveling through time to fix problems with the TVA. He's kind of being forced into it. Where do we think that, like, what is this thing that we're missing? Like that we've seen in the other shows? Any guesses?
I wonder if, okay, I don't know if I have anything super big, but I'm just thinking about, I wonder if the thing is like, they're going to want him to, after fixing everything, to basically like live out, like fix his timeline to the point where it's exactly the same. So he knows he's going to get like killed by Thanos. And so it's really Loki, like doing everything he can subtly to not let time play out normally. I think Galactus. No.
Mephisto comes in. No. But I think
it was Agatha all along.
She's still there.
Yeah,
It's still Agatha. Agatha was Thanos.
Yep. I think it would be really interesting, and I know I keep saying God of Mischief a lot, but I think it would be really interesting if it turns out that like Loki is actually kind of in charge of everything, like that there's this secret higher up, like that, oh hey, we answer to him, but like nobody knows who it is, not even like the VP type thing. And all of a sudden at the end it's like, yeah, you're out because you're an idiot and I'm really in charge, so see ya. And Loki is just Loki and like all of his
It's been like it's been an alternate form of Loki that's been in charge of the TVA that he kind of like like, this is why I brought you in.
Like a really old like Odin like Loki too, where like he's got like a beard and he's like old Tom Hiddleston and he's like, boy.
So Hope, leading into that, in the IMDb cast list, I believe that someone has been cast as female Loki is the description. So I think the subplot might be like there's something critical about Loki that the TVA knows about. Mm-hmm. And I think they need to collect Lokis from throughout like the multiverse. I think that might be like the thing.
As a
like
battery.
Gotta catch them all. Either because Loki is what's breaking the multiverse apart, or Loki's the only thing that can bring it together. I think this might lead into some Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness type thing. But I think the subplot is like we're gonna collect the Lokis.
So you're saying he's the key. Low-key.
Low-key.
He's low-key the key.
So anyway, I think it's like there's big multiversal problem. Loki's the fix. Loki does not want to be the fix is where I'm thinking. Yeah. And I think that's the thing we're missing is there. Right now, it just seems like, fix these issues. I think there's a deeper multiversal issue. Like, if we don't fix these issues, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that leads into, like, this final villain and stuff like that we don't know about yet. So, well, I'm very excited. I love MCU stuff. Normally, we get all this trailer kind of stuff in, like, November or, like, late summer to early fall, even into November. But because of the COVID schedule stuff, we're kind of getting a bunch of stuff now, which is very, very nice. And then with Disney Plus being out, we're getting Marvel stuff throughout the year. So very, very excited. But as always here on Raving Geeks, we like to end with some recommendations for you viewers, whether that be movies, video games, comics, or anything else geeky. I've mentioned food before. We've talked about sports, anything that we like to recommend. So would one of our hosts like to start?
Yeah, I'll go first. So my recommendations are, I have two for this week. First one is The Mighty Ducks Game Changers. It's a Disney Plus show, and it comes out a new episode every Friday, like Falcon and Winter Soldier. Only it is one episode behind from Falcon and Winter Soldier because it came out 1 week after. So tomorrow, Friday the 9th, when we're filming this, is going to be the 3rd episode. It is super cute. Emilio Estevez is still phenomenal as Gordon Bombay. I'm honestly waiting for Charlie to show up at some point and like kick Gordon Bombay's butt into gear. But it's super cute so far, and I absolutely love it. My other one is Criminal Minds, because I have been binge watching that series lately on Netflix. I'm into season 3, and I just got Agent Rossi back. But so I love Rossi, and I love Reed, and I love all my characters on Criminal Minds. I haven't seen the like recent seasons, so I'm not fully up to date, but I figure, if I go back a bit and I can go and lead up to everything, then, by the time that the next season comes out, I'll be all caught up. So, those are my recommendations.
All right. I love Criminal Minds. I need to watch a lot more, but Mandy Patinkin. My recommendation is actually, it's not a recent movie. It's from 2013, but it's on Netflix, and it's called About Time. And it's honestly more of a romance, to be honest, but it features Domhnall Gleeson, who is, he plays like Bill Weasley.
Charlie Weasley.
Bill Weasley. Yeah. And he plays, what's his nuts from Star Wars?
Commander Hux.
Yes,
General Hux.
General Hux. He's great. He's British.
He's in the Peter Rabbit movies.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick tangent. Speaking of him as Bill Weasley, did you know that the guy who plays Mad Eye Moody was his dad?
Is his father? Yes, I did.
I did not.
His name also ends in Gleason. Yeah, no,
I didn't know that, and it was so weird.
I know because he's the one that says Moody's dead in Harry Potter, in the Deathly Hallows Part 1. And he was like, I was just really happy I got to say that my father's character died.
Which, okay, I want to go on a quick tangent there. You know that the boy who played young Tom Riddle in The Orphanage was actually Ralph Fiennes' nephew.
Voldemort's nephew?
Yeah, hero Tiffin Fiennes, who is now in the After movies. But yeah, that was him. And so, yeah, it's just a family affair. It's all good.
We call that nepotism. Why couldn't I have been in the movie? No. So, yeah, the cast, it features Domhnall Gleeson, Rachel McAdams, Margot Robbie, Bill Nighy, who plays Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Bill Nye?
Nighy.
Bill Nye. I love Bill Nye.
Nighy. Anyways, it's basically it's a comedy romance, but it's about all the men in this family. Sorry, females, but all the men, sorry, ladies, have the ability to time travel, but they can only time travel in their own lifetime. So like they can go back and like fix a mistake, or they could, someone gets in a car accident, they could go back and like warn their friend, like, don't drive drunk, I'll drive you, or something like that. And so basically it's about him trying to like, he figures his dad tells him that they can do this, and he tries to like make decisions, but it's so good. Oh my gosh. Cause he like meets a girl and like, he really kicks it off, but then he like goes back and has to do something else. And it like ruins the timeline. Cause if he goes forward, he never met the girl. And he's like, crap. And so like, he keeps on trying different ways to like re-meet her, and it doesn't work at all. It's great. And it's happy and it's funny. And then it's also sad. And I cried. So that's what I recommend. I cried. It's a tearjerker.
Am I going to want to throw my phone at the TV?
No.
Okay.
Also, Isaac, I could not. The reason I don't think you were cast as young Tom Riddle is because I don't think you could ever play any version of Voldemort ever. Yeah,
I hit people sometimes.
Yeah, no, I would laugh. You aren't scaring me.
I'll scare you.
No,
Yeah, no, I don't think that's
nose.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. If you take anything away from this episode, it's I don't think Isaac could ever play a villain. At least
I'm
not
pointing my wand as hard as I can.
No, okay, I take that back. If Isaac was going to play a villain, it'd be like a Megamind.
Oh yes, I love Megamind.
All right, so
appreciate
my
that.
recommendations for this week. If you've never played the game Untitled Goose Game, highly recommend. Basically, you're just this pesky goose. Also, slight tangent. I hate geese so much. Like, I would go to the park to play Pokemon Go, and the geese would just be around. I'm like, can't you just leave? One tried to bite my hand one time, so it scared me, so I accidentally backhanded the goose, and then the rest stayed away from me for like a whole summer. But then okay, it freaked me out, and I have a fight reaction, not a flight reaction, and it tried to bite my hand, and I went bam, and I slapped it. I was like, oh, okay, but I just don't like geese.
If only the geese knew that together they could defeat you.
Oh, they could try. I would That's the thing. I've actually had this conversation with my girlfriend of how many geese I think I could take on. But because the geese have the long necks, I could grab, as long as I can get one by the neck, I can use it as a weapon against the other ones.
All right, new opening question for next week. How many geese do you think you could take?
How many geese can you take in a fight?
Where was this park? Because there has been a goose that has shown up in my courtyard the past 2 days.
Oh, no, this is back, I'm from Metro Detroit, so it's back there.
Because what if it followed you and it's trying to find you right now?
Go for it. I'll backhand it again. Sorry, I'm not promoting violence against animals. I just really don't like geese. Okay, but then the game, you're just a pesky goose that you start in a garden and you just cause nonsense, and you literally have a checklist of things to just do to just annoy the other people in the game. And it's really fun. It's $15 on the online on the Switch store. It's definitely worth it. And then the other one I recommend
for the phone. Holy no! I thought it was a phone game. Sorry.
Oh no, it's on the Switch. But then my other recommendation is the show Stargirl. So it premiered on the CW last year, and I kind of forgot about it until I was like, wait, isn't season 2 coming out soon? So highly recommend before season 2 does come out. It's just 13 episodes for season 1. Very, very well done. Jeff Johns is in charge of it, and that's the person who created the character Stargirl in the comics, so he has a lot of passion for it. Really, it's a family oriented show, kind of set in the Arrowverse, but also not. It's very, very well done. Great stories, great characters, stuff I didn't think I'd like. I ended up loving by the end of the season, and it was just exceptional. So highly recommend.
Did you know that Lou Ferrigno's son, Lou Ferrigno Jr., is in that show?
Oh, who does he play?
I think something that Hour or Time.
Hourman?
Yeah,
Hourman. That's him? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I can see now that I can see the resemblance. Alrighty. Well, that is all we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in here at Raving Geeks. Make sure you leave a comment wherever you're listening from. We'd love to hear what you thought about the episode, what you think we should talk about in the future, or just literally anything you want to let us know. Your recommendations, your favorite place to eat, what you think Loki's going to do in the season finale of Loki season 1, anything. Also, feel free to reach out to us with those comments on our Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, any of our social media channels, at Raving Geeks. And as always, I've been Brendan Valentine, along with my co-hosts.
I am Hope Gooderl.
And I'm Dark Lord Isaac Hunter.
Alrighty then. Stay geeky and have a great week, everyone. So long.